It's your friendly math tutor, Miss C here, and today we are solving quadratic equations. There are two ways to solve quadratic equations. The first way is that we could factor. The second way is that we could use the quadratic formula, and that is in fact what we are doing here today. This particular video focuses on imaginary solutions or complex solutions. And what that means, since we're using the quadratic formula, is we are going to end up with a negative under our root bar. So let's go ahead and get started. I've listed the steps over here for us. So our first step is we are going to substitute 0 in for y. So anytime we're solving a quadratic equation and our instructions are just to solve, this is our first step. So I'm going to check off that we did that. Now, we are going to identify our a, b, and c terms. So a in this case is -1. And I'm making the assumption that you have learned this a little bit with your math teacher. So just a reminder that the coefficient of x squared is your a. So in this case, it's -1. And this is one of the tricks. We have to know that if there's not a number written, it's -1. B is the coefficient in front of the x term, which is +8. So you're going to notice I'm highlighting the signs because that's the most common mistake when we do this. And C is the constant, in this case, -21. All right, so I'm going to double check that my A is negative, my B is positive, and my C is negative. All right, step 2 is done. And now I'm going to go ahead and plug this into the quadratic formula. So I'm going to write the formula for us. Okay, and everywhere I see A, I'm going to be plugging in -1. Everywhere I see B, I'm going to be plugging in 8. And everywhere I see C, I'm going to be plugging in -21. All right, so I've written the formula with my values, the A, B, and C values not written in. So the first thing I'm going to plug in is B. You're going to notice I have a negative sign here. This is also a super common mistake. Make sure you do not drop your negative, especially if you're substituting in a negative number. So there goes my first B. My second B goes here where B squared is. So I'm going to just highlight these so you can see that I've plugged B in those spots. All right, the next thing that I'm going to plug in is A. So A comes right here. So A is -1 in this case. And then I need to plug in C. So C is -21. Okay. And then it's all divided by 2A, which again is -1. So I'm going to highlight my A. Oops, that was not the highlight. I'm going to highlight my A's in purple. And then my C is just red. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and simplify. So I still have -8 here, plus or minus. 8 squared is 64. And of course, you could go ahead and plug this straight into your calculator. A negative times a negative times a negative remains negative. So I have 4 times 21, which is 84, all over 2 times -1, which is -2. Okay, so I'm going to continue simplifying here. So underneath the root bar, I end up with -20 all over -2. All right, so I know sometimes people get really tempted to drop this -2 off. Please don't do that yet because we're not there. So I'm going to go ahead and get us set up to do our complex, pull out our complex root here, or a complex number. So I like to always pull out when I have the square root of -20. I'm going to pull out the square root of -1 first. So that's going to be that's where the negative goes. And then I'm going to pull out if there's a perfect square root in here or perfect square in here, I'm going to pull that out. And in this case, it's 4, right? Because 4 times 5 makes 20. 4 is a perfect square. So we're going to pull that out. And then I'm going to multiply this by 5. So these 3 numbers, when I multiply them together, should make this number. Okay, and now I just have -2 in the denominator here. All right, so now I have x equals negative. All right, here's the deal. When we do our next step, we always start with the perfect square when we write our answer. So our perfect square, the square root of 4 is 2. And then the next part that gets multiplied is our imaginary number. So the square root of -1 is equal to the letter I. That means imaginary. And then we multiply it by our root 5. Okay, there we go. All divided by -2. And folks, we're in the home stretch now. We just need to simplify. So x equals -8 divided by -2, which is 4, plus or minus 2i divided by -2. So a positive divided by a negative is negative, so we've already got that. And then a negative divided by negative is positive, we've already got that. So this becomes I times root 5. And this is the solution to our quadratic equation, and it is complex because it has an I. Thank you for joining me to do this. If you found this video helpful at all, please like it so other people see it. Make sure to subscribe. Until next time, remember, you've got this.